Hello, Agustina. Welcome to Fair Dialogues.
Hello, Anna, and hi, everybody. So happy to be here to talk about this.
Hello, everyone who's joining from my side as well. How is everyone doing? In Barcelona, I'm having a storm. I don't know about you in Madrid, Agustina.
No storm. The sun is bright. It's really shining through my window.
Yeah, I can see on your face. I had to put all the lamps here. Everybody joining us, how are you doing? Thank you for joining today again for the Fair Dialogues. I am very curious where you're dialing in as usual, and also if this is your first time joining or you're a repeat visitor, we'd love to have you again. Thank you so much for joining. If you know already, the format is very intense, very quick for this Fair Dialogues, half an hour for you to take advantage of Augustina's wisdom and time here, to be honest. That's why we're here to tap into others people's experiences, expertise. I am somehow we're very focused through these sessions to bring people together that are leaders who are rethinking inclusion, culture, fairness in today's workplace. The fair dialogues are specifically for that, to have a dialogue. So ask loads of questions, bring your cases. We will put all the comments that are coming up, we'll put them on the screen, we'll go through them. Even if we have half an hour, I'm actually more curious about the questions and the cases and the impressions. We have a bit of a topic of discussion that we want to bring to you, but take it. This is your space. So somehow I brought here Augustina because I know she has a lot of like personal stories, maybe some scars, maybe some lessons that we can tap into. But she's been in the front line of leadership for a long time. Very multifaceted people leader with experience in high pressure, high complexity type of environments, and also with what we love the most, social impact. I know all fair fans are very much focused on this, so we try to give you speakers and experts that are living this on a daily basis. Augustina, I'm sure many of your friends that know you and have worked with you have dialed in, but for those maybe who don't know you that well, tell us a little bit your highlights of your career and your expertise.
Okay, super. Well, I'm a psychologist, specialized in positive organizational psychology. I'm also Chief Wellbeing Officer certified, and I've been in the as a leader of HR for many years now, moving into different sectors. I've been in the fitness industry, I'm in the deep tech industry, in the semiconductors. And my motto on what drives me is to really bring a people centered approach into organizations that combines high performance teams and well being, and considering well being not as a commodity or something that the company needs to provide per se, but as something that really makes the workplace a better and more inclusive and a happier place to be, because we spend many hours at work. This is a cliche, but it's also a reality that we need to say.
I
So
feel sometimes all the hours.
all of the hours, yeah. Because when we're not working, we're thinking about work, or maybe some ideas come up at night. So I think my drive and my spirit is to really put my grain of sand in creating better workplaces that combine this high performance with well-being as a central part of the strategy that we bring to companies.
Amazing. So thank you again for your time and your expertise. Again, those who have joined a bit later, you are here for a session, a very kind of blitz one with Agustina. We're going to discuss how to sustain well-being when the stakes are really high. What does clarity and culture have to do in order to drive growth? And very specifically, what can you do, what your leaders can do to have more resilient, happier workplaces without losing that ambition and that drive, right? So again, if you're here for the first time, use the comment space. We will see the questions and add them to the screen, and we will make sure to answer them live in this session. To dive in, Augustina, I know you have been in a couple of different environments that, in my opinion, are very high pressure for different reasons and high complexity. I find that this particular two aspects add even more pressure to the idea of well-being, of protecting people from burnout. And I'm curious, what have you observed around the reasoning why this well-being kind of attitude culture breaks down in companies like these?
Yeah, I think in these sectors that I've been to, I do detect that speed, agility, dynamic environments that we often use as a slogan to showcase how good we are and how in touch with the reality we are. We're a startup, we're agile, we are so fast and dynamic. Come join us. And in reality, in many of these settings, what's behind it's unclarity, as we mentioned before.
Mm.
It's undefined roles. It's constantly shifting priorities. It's a
Mhm.
lack of real support and lack of that human connection with the team members, because we always think about goals over person or goals over
Yeah.
people. So I think what I see well-being really breaks down in these environments is where companies live in this constant state of urgency, and agility is celebrated, but it's really defined and really connected to what really needs to be inspiring for people and putting well-being at the center.
Mhm.
That's what I noticed in the different sectors that I've been to. Yeah.
I can totally see that, right? In terms of missing, having these blind spots. So you are prioritizing speed, you're prioritizing somehow solution and problem solving, which is the purpose of having a team and a business, right? We're solving problems for society at large most of the times, but there are these blind spots, and I do somehow also think in general when we think about all the workshops and trainings and conversations on motivation, we focus a lot on individual motivation, the individual drivers. But I find when it comes to burnout and lack of clarity and this kind of fatigue, right, that we're seeing that leads to disengagement, leads to lower productivity, leads to burnout. It's also like the motivation of working in a team. I'm very curious, like, you've written, I think, quite a bit about motivation. What were your observation when it comes to this kind of misunderstandings, personal, individual motivation, and then team motivation and work together?
That's very interesting because when we talk about motivation, we need to talk about many variables: intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation, the salary, the compensation, perks, and benefits. Are they really connecting to the team members' motivation? Are we doing something about that to the
Mm.
external motivation? And also, are we touching the sweet spots of people in terms of their purpose, their connection to their role, their clarity that they have about how does the role fit in the bigger picture of the company? Because if there's no clarity there, then the motivation is just perks and
Mm.
benefits, just external. So but at the same time, I do think that we tend to romanticize motivation within companies,
Mm.
as it we should always feel a passion and a sense of inspiration and a flow and a purpose with what we do. And what I've written in my recent book, actually, it's more about not romanticizing motivation, but understanding that as human beings, sometimes being motivated doesn't mean having this high sense of
Mhm.
purpose or this
Mhm.
huge passion. We sometimes need to move a little bit in order to find intentionality in what we do. And at work, it's the same. Sometimes I do see teams or managers even thinking about, okay, I don't feel motivated enough. Maybe I should change a job
Mhm.
directly, and
Yeah.
I need to find another career progression. And sometimes it's not just about that, it's about
Yeah.
believing that motivation is not a constant sense of inspiration, but a dynamic
Mhm.
balance, I think, between meaning, finding intentionality,
Mhm.
autonomy, or agency in what we do, and seeing that progressing over time. And as a company, when we understand motivation this way, we are not so focused on adding perks and perks and benefits after benefit, which is important and we need to do it.
Sure.
But at the same time, we treat humans as humans. And I think when we do that, we connect with the intrinsic or internal motivation that also inspires the team atmosphere that we want to create.
Yeah. And we've been in this particular timeline, post COVID, of a bit of chaotic reset, right? All the discussions around return to work, hybrid, full remote, distributed, they have gone global. A lot of the conversations on safety, right? Because I've seen a lot of the layoffs, specifically in the fields that you have activated in. So that adds pressure. Is it a certain big shift, or is it just a momentum that we are in, and we are again doing a bit of a reset? So what I'm hearing somehow from you, that maybe those perks and those programs, they are not necessarily the biggest, they don't have necessarily the biggest weight when it comes to well-being, but clarity is the new care. uh, is there
100%.
and we all need to work so much more on our let's say strategic vision, on the way we think about priorities, and specifically communication. I'm curious if you've seen where unclear expectations or values led somehow to this disconnection.
Yes, I've seen it, and I've seen it more than once, unfortunately. I think I always say clarity. It's been kind. Clarity has been really a promoter of well-being within a company, and I think as managers, when managers don't have that clarity in their own roles, in what they
Mhm.
perceive about their role and how it connects with the rest of the company, it translates in how they scale that to their teams. I think in terms of what I've witnessed as real examples, I saw in a startup environment, teams really having a different, like a wave of different priorities. One week,
Mhm.
one of the things that was the most important thing about the role, and that was the most important that they needed to really focus on, after a few weeks was really not on the list of the to do, or not even a priority. And there was a serious gap in terms of leadership for this team. And what I
Mhm.
saw, it's a silent quitting effect,
Mhm.
also burnout, diagnosed real burnout, and people really disengage. And what do you see when people are disengaged? Not only that they leave, or that they go on a medical
Mhm.
leave, or that they actually start looking for another job, but they feel invisible. And
Yeah.
invisibility, it's also
Mhm.
an ingredient for burnout. Not only workload, not only burnout. Sometimes we tend to associate it with, oh, I have so much to do, my to-do list is endless. But when people start believing that they don't have a sense of agency or purpose with the role and what they do, and that the priorities shift as if what they do doesn't matter in the bigger
Mhm.
picture,
Mhm.
eh, then we see really that burnout can
Mhm.
camp there and take a place, and be detrimental to mental health, and also to the cultural environments that we want to create.
I think this is where a culture of inclusion really makes a lot of sense, because it all starts with active listening, right? If somebody has an opinion, a problem, a suggestion, are we listening? Are we taking that in? Are we responding in any way to that? Versus, I kind of heard it, but
Mm,
no, we still do our thing. And when you employ hundreds of people to just do better as a team, and then you don't listen to them, this, yeah, I can totally see how that invisibility, and I don't think I've heard anybody else really talk about this part of burnout and the reasoning of it. And I can really see it through the idea of, like, are we actively, as a leadership, as a
mm,
peer group, are we actively listening and seeing these people?
mm.
Somehow the pressure makes people rush, right, and go to to
Yeah.
instinctual collaboration, which is shortcutting a lot of the conversations, a lot of the feedback loops, a lot of the,
Mm,
let's say, serious sit down and gathering all these opinions. You worked with a lot of managers, you worked with founders, you do quite a lot of coaching. Give us 2 3 tips, like, what do you do to coach these people to create clarity under pressure?
that's a very good question. I First of all, I think self-reflection. As
Mm.
a manager, what am I modeling as a leader? Am I modeling well-being? Am I creating chaos? Am I all up for clarity? When we have a project, what are the steps that I take to launch it? Am I involving people? Am I creating the safe space, the psychologically safe space for them to be themselves while working, to be able to share ideas and listen actively to those ideas? I think what I like to say is create rhythm over
Mhm.
rush. Because of
Mhm.
course we are in a rush, we are in a sector when we are in deep tech that it's always about executing, it's always about producing, it's always about the roadmaps that need to have a finish line. But if we have a people, a team, a team players that are sprinting all the time without a time for rest, a time for learning, a time for having really these feedback loops in place, or that are not organic when we are speeding, but they should be organic. We should make them part of the process. That's why when we talk about well-being, it's not just about those perks or benefits. It's about the way we work with each other, the way we really lead people, and the way we give them the possibility to learn through the process. When we are not connecting to learnings because we're always executing, we're missing a huge chance for people to build resilience. And that's a key ingredient also for high performance teams, to build really resilience from within. So I think I would say create clarity over chaos, even if it's chaotic, even if it's a huge and a big speed. Try to bring fewer priorities, less ambiguity, because ambiguity always, what I witness is that ambiguity sometimes drains more than having a huge workload,
Yeah.
because you don't only have workload, but you also are not really clear about priorities. Then the rhythm over rush creates
Mm-hmm.
cycles of focus, time, and also recovery for people to be able to separate. Okay, now I'm wearing the strategic hat. Now I'm wearing the operational hat, and be able to navigate those without the burden of switching between hats. And I would say
Mm-hmm.
also agency over micromanagement or control. And what does it
Mm-hmm.
mean? When we give people the ability and the safe space to have a say in how to do things, and to have a say on what's important, and to co-create the priorities, then it's much better, because engagement rises up, instead of having people to complete a to-do list without a sense of ownership to it. And then value over void. People need
Mm-hmm.
to feel recognized, need to feel valued, need to understand that they're on the right path, or that they need to
Mm-hmm.
iterate somehow.
Yeah.
And if we don't provide those feedback loops, as you were mentioning, we miss the opportunity to lead with authenticity, I think.
So many interesting nuggets. I love this rhythm over rush. And I'm very curious, maybe even from your current team, it makes me think of rituals, right? And organizations and teams that are managing somehow to put in place some even daily, weekly, monthly, doesn't matter, but meaningful milestone, meaningful rituals, not just the regular stand up when nobody wants to show their face and nobody has any updates, which we
Mm,
all probably got tired of. But there are some teams that are using this connection time super, super well. I'm curious if you're trying to push something at the moment in your organization, if you have something that you're like, this is really working for us to put
mm.
that rhythm over rush.
I think right now what we needed to do was first to set the clarity. You cannot
Mm-hmm.
set a rhythm without clarity, because otherwise you are creating a rhythm over chaos. So I
Mm-hmm.
think first step is to really be clear about roles, contributions, duplicities that we might be having in the company, understanding what are the synergies or the cross-functional collaboration between roles. When we have clarity on who we are, what are we doing, where do we want to go, then we could create those rituals over a solid base, because otherwise it might mean that we are building from the roof instead of creating that solid base
Mm-hmm.
playground for people. So right now I'm more in that first stage,
Mm-hmm.
but things that work for me and that I saw working to really prioritize rhythm over rush is when it's the retros, like having retros, conscious retros after launching a project, after having to commit to something, to a deliverable, really scheduling profound retros where we don't only talk about technicalities, but we also talk about how we work with each other. How was the communication? Where we look at different angles and we have a 360 picture. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's really, as I witnessed from my last teams, and it's something that I also want to bring in the companies that I am. It helps to build that resilient muscle, and it helps people connecting to what we do at a deeper level. So I would
Mm-hmm.
suggest strongly retros after launching projects that are not only focusing on technical aspects of it, but also talk about how we are at a human level, and what did we do that failed, what can we
Mm-hmm.
do to overcome it, what are the learning steps, and document that.
Mhm.
document that so you can really have access to it and other people can learn from each other teams.
I love that. I love retros, and I find them a very interesting practice of speaking in front of your team, kind of argumenting certain situations, creating a common understanding of our blockers versus their blockers, and kind of then figuring out a way to do better the next iteration. I totally agree. If anybody on the call has any tips as well, put them in. Like, what works for you? What are some rituals that really make the communication more fluid, more interesting, and also the speed of actually creating new ideas, new project is amplified because we have that confidence that we're all kind of moving in the same direction. We have a purpose, but we also have our autonomy to do things and be kind of aware that there will be blockers and there will be things that we need to deal with, but we are dealing with them right as a team. Super
Totally.
interesting. I feel somehow that there are some teams. I mean, we all heard, I would say, in the past maybe 6 months, the founder mindset, where it's like everybody goes back, hands on deck, nobody really pauses. The 996, we work,
Mm,
we work 6 days a week, 9 to 9, all this kind of
yeah.
philosophy like that. We're coming back to some of the rush way of building, specifically in tech, but this is happening, I would say,
Mm,
across a variety of industries. And I think where we're trying, and maybe where we are, both of us aligned, is that these pauses that we create
mm,
within the work, they don't actually mean slowing down.
100%. No, they don't mean slowing down. And well-being does not mean slowing down. Well-being means getting ready to speed up in a way, in a
Mhm,
different way. And I think
mhm,
um, I do see that companies nowadays, after the post-pandemic pause that we all had worldwide,
mhm,
have a tendency of let's go back to sitting in the chairs and let's go
mhm,
back to that control over agency in a way, the opposite of what I want to
mhm,
share, because there's a sense of less engagement from people and more I think nowadays people tend to don't think twice when thinking about new job opportunities. If they are not really happy in terms of
mhm,
flexibility, they will
mhm,
look for something else because the
mhm,
market is huge. And
mhm.
right now, one of the things that the pandemic did was that we learned that we could work remotely quite good
Yeah.
in different companies or for other countries. So I think there's more the permission that people give to themselves. And
Mhm,
there was a switch in terms of how we consider work. Is it the central part of our life, or we need to really have a life and at the same time the work needs to be fulfilling enough but not the only thing that moves us. So I think
mhm,
there's a systemic change in people's mindset in terms of work that companies are a bit scared to face it with reality and with so what do they what do they do? They face it with control and they face it with that
mhm,
switch and these kind of policies that might be a little bit detrimental if not done considering that flexibility aspect. When they are considered with that flexibility aspect, I think it's all good, and it's good to be in person and it's good to go back to what it was before, but
mhm,
having these nuances studied beforehand. Um, I do think that slowing down it's not detrimental to well-being, and
mhm,
the pauses makes us a better team and makes us a better company as well. But when the pauses are reactive and not proactive, and they are
mhm,
so dependable on whether the manager it's like has a high emotional intelligence and has this human touch to really understand their teams, then the
mhm,
company is not really doing a good job in terms of well-being because we are reactive to the manager's potential. And I think we do need to take responsibility over that, not because the company needs to provide well-being as if it
yeah.
were a an exchange currency,
Yeah.
but we need to co-create spaces that are more connected to the idea that posing is not performing.
Mm.
The best performer doesn't tend to be the one that answers the teams late at night. No.
I have this visual in my head somehow around sports people. They train, they pause, they recover. They train,
Mm.
they pause, they recover. They train, they pause, they recover.
Yeah,
And then when you have the big competition, you are both trained and performing, but you're
yeah,
also rested enough to be at your highest level of performance. So
totally.
I would love maybe to see more of this philosophy, especially in high intensity workplaces where pressure is high, deadlines are really continuous, right, and piling up. And then we still expect of people to be happy, smiling,
Mm.
not necessarily, apply so much critical thinking, just follow orders, and that doesn't work. It's a little bit the same philosophy. Everybody wants to win and get to the finish line, but in a way where you still feel good after the finish line. You're because there's another finish
Exactly.
line and another one and another one.
No, and even in when you're running to get to the finish line, you are not always sprinting. Sprinting maybe it's at the end. Then you have different rhythms throughout the run where you need to rest, need to you stretch your muscles, maybe drink some water. Like we do need to put or bring in companies this cycle of focus, recovery, performing, delivering. Because if it's only deliverables and achieving and going to the finish line, we are not really learning in the process to be better as a company because we're not stopping to reflect.
No. Yeah. And we talked a lot in this session about the philosophy, let's say, so of flexibility, of clarity, of communication. There are also some practical things that you, as a chief people officer, and many others in your position are budgeting for, are planning for when it comes to benefits. What do you see in terms of your groups and your companies that they use the most, they appreciate the most, and they can be very, I don't know, pension plans. I don't, but I think there are some things that bring more than others.
Yeah, I think as a must, and I saw this in different companies in this, and it's something that
Mhm.
I really vouch for. It's the flexible retribution. That
Mm.
means it's linked to the salary of the person. It
Mhm.
doesn't have a huge cost for companies, but it's really quite standard, and people tend to take advantage of it because they perceive that you are also looking after their pockets and their money and the way they can
Mhm.
budget for different things. So I think getting to it's more about the philosophy behind that. Yes, you are paying
Mhm.
for it, you are paying for the restaurant tickets, you're paying for the kindergarten or the different benefits that you have, but you're not paying as much because you are using this through the company. So I think that sends a powerful message of looking after people's budget and money. And in
Mhm.
terms of benefits, I saw a different wide of meditation apps that for some
Mhm.
companies and for some teams work, for some don't at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think I wouldn't say this app or this
Mhm.
platform. I think it needs to come, the benefits and perk,
Yeah.
not just top down, but we need to have a conversation with really employees and understanding the culture to see what's
Mhm.
needed and to create really strategies that respond to people's needs and to respond
Mhm.
to what we do. For example, in deep tech, when we are delivering, executing, going and sharing an application for meditation, perhaps it's received like, I have no time for this. I have
Yeah.
no time to sit 5 minutes and breathe. So perhaps we need different strategies there instead
Yeah.
of pushing on what the mainstream is telling us to push. But when we talk about money, and in companies,
Mhm.
we earn money, we earn a salary. I think when we do have perks or benefits that directly impact in people's money, that
Yeah.
those will always be well received.
Let's do the sign. We are very much on time, Augustina. I just want to, before we wrap up, two things from you. One, what is your one belief about well-being in the workplace that we need to throw away, and maybe one to build more on?
Okay. To throw away, I would definitely throw away that well-being. It's a nice to have
Mm.
that's for later, and that companies don't need to connect with it right now. Like, no, well-being plan, a nice to have for later when we reach the targets, when we are there, when um, we when we have time for it. No, it's not a nice to have for later. It's not a reward to do when things are going well. It's part of the
Yeah.
process of things going well. So I will
Mhm.
get rid of that. And to build on, like a thought to build on or a belief to build on, I think it's that well-being, it's a leadership and strategic choice, and it allows us to perform better under pressure, not the opposite. It's not what distracts us from working well, but it allows us to work well under pressure and to prevent major mental health issues such as burnout.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it all. For people to reach out to you and maybe debate more together, have the dialogue directly with you, where can they reach you? How they can contact you?
Oh, for sure, I will love it. I'm quite active at LinkedIn, so happy to receive any message from LinkedIn. And that's the channel. I also have an Instagram account, activatuspropiosrecursos.com, but I'm not really active at the moment in that account. So LinkedIn, I think, is the right place.
Still, where we are
Yeah.
now. So do connect with Agustina. She's based in Madrid. She just told me everybody's invited for a coffee. I'm just messing with
Yeah.
her, but
Oh, I will love it. Yeah. I love this chat. So I'm up for coffees to talk about well-being and culture organizational switch and
perfect.
changes.
A lot of good nuggets here. I appreciate you taking the time for us. For everybody who's joined us or will listen to this as a recording later on in their due time, thank you so much. Do stay connected and share your thoughts even in the comments afterwards. We will be back with Fair Dialogues in 2 weeks, where we have a very special guest coming from Paris. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of fun listening to that session too. Thank you, Sebastian, for being with us today. We're seeing a bit of a comment and thank you notes coming in, but we're very much on time. Thank you, everybody, for coming in. We'll see you in 2 weeks, and every 2 weeks till Christmas. We are all planned. Follow here. You have a little bit of a QR code on the right side of the screen just to stay connected with us directly on the website and receive this in your inbox if you're curious to see all the sessions. Agustina, I will see you soon, and I'm sure we'll talk more about all these topics in our own rhythm.
Yes, in person in a rhythm. I love it. Thanks a lot. I enjoyed a lot our conversation.
Thank you, everyone. See you next time.
Thank you.